Hey guys, we want to thank Cap City Tees for sponsoring today's episode. That's right, Cap City Tees, the #1 printing company in Sacramento. Well, at least in our hearts. Cap City Tees is an amazing company putting out amazing quality at, most importantly, amazing prices. They are in line with any major retailer out there. Now, if you're in need of getting a shirt screen printed or embroidered, whether that's your local soccer team or basketball team or volleyball team or all the way up to corporate clothing, Cap City Tees is the place to go. So if you're in need or if you're in want, reach out to Cap City Tees at capcitytees.com or capcitytees@gmail.com. That's capcitytees@gmail.com. Welcome to the Hard Money Show, where we talk about real estate, home loans, and media. It is a good day when we can get on the podcast and talk about, well, I think what everybody here hopes we're going to talk about: some real estate, some home loans, and some media. Today, I'm very excited. We have some guests. As you guys know from the previous podcast, been a little bit sick. I haven't been able to upload as much as I want. I'm going to make up for that, I promise. And this is one of our guests that we had to reschedule. And they were very gracious with, understanding with where everything was going and kind of some miscommunications on my part. So thank you guys for being on. I have Alex with me today, and I have Miawand. We just went over this. Jesus. Miawand. Thank you. I'm going to get that before the end. We're going to be best friends. We'll go out. I'll buy you dinner, man. Thank you so much for, letting me get through that.
You wouldn't be the first or last one that offered me that my name.
Well, when I saw it, I was like, Miawand, I think, because I thought like Mia, like kind of that way.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
You won't hear it often again, so I'm sure we'll get it nailed down.
Oh, I hope that's not the case, man. I hope I hear it all the time. That's what we're here for. So guys, we appreciate you guys being on. Now, we did get connected through, one of my old friends, Cherie, who's out in Bakersfield, who, I'm going to let you guys kind of explain what's going on out there, but apparently you guys are all working together now. She has very high praise for you guys, for what you guys do, the systems you have in place. I had a chance to go look through your guys' website, and, at first face value, it looks pretty great to me. And I'm hoping we can dive into that a little bit more. I know you guys don't fully know my background, but my background is in media and public relations, brand development, and all of that sort of stuff. So it's always really interesting for me to take a look at what that looks like for people, especially in the real estate world, where you have all of this sort of, I hate to say miscommunication, but definitely it's a little confusing for new realtors when they're like, well, what are their splits? We don't have any splits, but then there's these fees and things like that. And so it's always interesting to see that sort of stuff. But before we jump in, I'd love to give you guys the opportunity, introduce yourselves and tell us who you guys are working with. Whoever wants to go first. You guys can box it out.
All right, I'll go first. Well, I appreciate you having us on, Mac. And taking the time to do that intro. And yeah, so I'm Alex Burhan with Better Rate Mortgage, and I've been in the industry for 20 years. I was fortunate enough to have family members who were already in the industry when I first started out, and they gave me the mentorship and the guidance, and they knew about my personality, and they thought that I'd do great in the mortgage industry, and I should look into it. And, at that time I was going to college and I was about to graduate. And I really didn't have anything else lined up for myself, but I knew that for me, I wanted independence and flexibility, and I wanted challenge, and I wanted the financial rewards, and ultimately to be able to make my own decisions on my own terms. So, being in the mortgage industry, doing some research and specifically working for a mortgage broker, I knew that could probably give me the ability to pursue that. And so now it's been almost 2 decades. And, the first part of, I should say half of the time I've been with a retail major banking institution. And then 10 years later, I kind of been working or been in the wholesale mortgage broker atmosphere. And I'm a huge proponent in working for a mortgage broker. And, about 4 years ago, went and opened up Better Rate Mortgage. We have a corporate office in Roseville, California, and just recently opened up a Folsom office. And we have another branch out in Birmingham, Michigan. We have a satellite office in Colorado. Currently have about 40 loan officers, and we're looking to expand and grow. Licensed in 12 states, and definitely continue to grow that as well. And we're a little unique. We're a hybrid of a correspondent lender and a mortgage broker. Correspondent lender just pretty much meaning that you're able to fund your loans in-house. And, we funded over $500 million in volume within the last 4 years, done over 1,500 units, helping out our amazing clients, and looking to grow and definitely go in other states. And that's a little background about myself.
And you're a broker, correct? And so this is your business.
That is correct.
You opened it up. All right. That's what I thought. Now,
that is correct.
Like all good podcast hosts, you have to stalk the people that are going to be on your podcast. And so I was trying to find you. I was like, I got to find this guy on LinkedIn. I'm like, I can't find this guy. And I don't really go on LinkedIn either because I don't job hop, like things like that. And so it's not a huge value to me, but I did go on, and it's funny. I was looking and I was like, oh, like 5 people have looked at me from Better Rates. I was like, it has to be like some like people that work with him, but I was like, none of them were you that I could see. So it was quite funny, actually.
Right.
Yeah. All right, cool. Well, good to have you.
Yeah. Yep. Thank you.
All right. Well, great intro, Alex. I share a lot of your early sentiments and happy to hear the story. So my name is Miawand Bayan. I'm the broker and founder of Pure Homes. It's a real estate brokerage. We have a corporate office that we actually just launched, a headquarters in Folsom as well. And we've been based in the Bay Area. We were founded in 2014 and have had an office in the Bay Area. And now we're really bullish and excited to expand in Sacramento. A little bit about me. I've been a broker now, a real estate broker in California for about 17 years. I grew up in the Bay Area till about grade school, and then ended up in the East Coast for the rest of my years in school, along with college. Ended up getting a degree in business with a concentration in real estate from a young age. Something I naturally geared towards, like a lot of kids that are into architecture and buildings and things like that. That was something that was always passionate to me innately. And so when I decided where I wanted to take my career, I was actually, looking at the corporate ladder and shared a lot of the sentiments that Alex mentioned, had an opportunity to work with a lot of different large corporations right out of my undergrad program, and decided to come back to the Bay Area to visit some family. I was in the East Coast. I was job hunting on Wall Street at 22 years old, right out of college, with a lot of offers in my hand. And I said, let me go visit some family in the Bay Area, and I'll make my way back to New York and see where I'm going to go. And then I couldn't have even made up the story if I wanted to or wrote it any better. Came to the Bay Area, visit some family. My grandma, who I was super close to, I'm always going to shout out, was a huge integral part of my life. I was like, what are you going to go back to New York for? The weather sucks there. We lived there long enough. This is why we're living in California. You should stay here. The weather's good. Plus, you'll be closer to me. So I didn't really think twice about it at that time. I just told grandma, I was like, yeah, I'm good with that. That sounds like a plan. Let's keep my focus. I'm young. I have an entrepreneurial spirit. I want to do business here in California. And so was interviewing with Morgan Stanley in San Francisco at the time, and got an opportunity to meet someone from that division that was heavily into real estate, high-end residential real estate in San Francisco. It was an old school Coldwell Banker broker that had a couple offices. And we had a really good conversation. And he's like, you know what? You seem like you have a knack for this and you're passionate about real estate. You should just get your broker's license. You've got the education for it. It shouldn't be too difficult for you to get one. And you should consider a career in real estate. And I followed his words, ended up getting my broker's license, becoming a founder and a partner in 2 Realty World offices early in my career, so the early 2000s. And then at the time when real estate was just starting to get digitized, players like Movoto and Zillow were coming into the market. Redfin hadn't even come into the market at all. And I was heavily approached and recruited by Redfin when they first opened up their offices in San Francisco. They literally had a staff of about three licensed real estate people in that office and about 27 engineers, all tech guys. And they were one of the first major companies, I would say. And now a lot of people, it's a more common household name, Redfin is. But at the time when I was hired, they only had a market in Seattle and a small market in San Francisco and Los Angeles, with not a lot of real estate structure. They were a tech company trying to understand, how to get themselves into a very unique and dynamic marketplace like real estate, where, the Bay Area acts very different than San Francisco, than Los Angeles or Seattle or any other major market. So they hired me as a managing broker and director of operations. I spearheaded a lot of the early development. I was hired before there was an app. We helped a lot of the development of the app and a lot of the technological advances that came in real estate in terms of what you see nowadays, where there's so much information available to the consumer, was something that Redfin was trying to give to the consumers. And they had a really cool and innovative approach to it. It was something that wasn't being done. And a lot of people in the industry might have frowned upon it then or frown upon it now. But, they did give a much more user-friendly platform for the dissemination of information to the average consumer that wasn't available before. They had a brokerage concept as well and a model. And so long story short, I was with them for about 5.5 years during their pre-IPO phases as a complete startup, helped build a team of the real estate staff from 4 of us to 77 or 78 when I left, all licensed agents that we brought on board. It segmented the markets in the Bay Area and in Sacramento so that, they could ultimately have the foundation for what they've become today on a micro and a macro level. And about 6 years after my time at Redfin, I kind of outgrew my role and had an opportunity to take on a couple other avenues within the company. And I just thought that, myself personally, with the amount of escrows that I had touched up until then, the amount of experience that I've had hands-on in the marketplace, that it was time for me to consider going my own route and taking my book of business and my experience with me. And so I partnered with a gentleman in Palo Alto named Ken DeLeon. I was a broker associate in his office for about 2 years. And the reason I did that, it gave me a really adept approach to the super high-end market in the Bay Area, let's say the $2+ million to $10+ million market. And I was a managing broker and a broker associate in his office for about 2 years before I decided to create Pure Homes, and the rest is history from there.
Well, I think I'll say, if you guys don't learn something from these two guys today, I think we have a problem, right? I mean, there's a lot of years here, there's a lot of experience, clearly. Can you, for one more time, just say your full name for everybody, first and last name?
Miawand Bayan.
I mean, that just rolls off the tongue so nicely. I have this thing about names where, like, when they sound really nice and you said it and I was like, ooh, yeah. When you throw the last name in there, that's real nice. Yeah, I like that.
I got to thank mom and dad for rolling off the tongue smoothly. And for people that have a hard time understanding even what I'm saying, think of like my magic wand, my wand. That's the easiest way to remember it.
And then the other guy you said out in Palo Alto, what was his full name?
Ken DeLeon.
Yeah, Ken DeLeon. That's a nice one too. That feels really
he's a rock star.
Yeah.
I got to give a lot of my success to things I learned along the way with him.
I mean, no offense to Alex, but I mean, Michael Mac doesn't not great either. So
right.
Yeah, that's right there.
Right.
So we tend to do a thing at the beginning of the podcast, because this podcast is not only for consumers, but it's for those realtors that want to learn something new, want to network with people, or loan officers, whoever, want to network with other people or learn stuff from this community. And so we try to service both of those areas. And so I do like to get a little bit of like understanding on the education portion. Now, because you both are brokers and brokers in, on one side and the other, I'd like to kind of just ask you guys, like, what was that experience for you guys getting your broker's license? And we kind of try to let realtor know that this isn't always the direction that you have to go in real estate. Sometimes people feel like, well, the steps in this as a loan officer is like become a realtor, get good at becoming a realtor, build a team, and then get a broker's license and open your own brokerage, right? And I know that there's different financial obligations or responsibilities on the real estate side versus the loan side. Those obligations can be extremely vast, but just kind of in general, why did you guys decide that you wanted to get your broker's license? What was that kind of education and stuff going for you? And interesting enough, all of us have college degrees, right? So I think I tend to think that people who have college degrees taking the exams are a little bit easier because you've done that through college, right? You've had that experience and things like that. So it might vary differently for somebody who didn't go that route and decided to get into real estate. But with that sort of understanding underway, why did you guys decide to do that? And I think for continuity for this, if we want to go like Alex goes first, and if you don't have like anything to say, feel free to pass the buck.
Right, you got
Sounds
it. No,
good.
I appreciate it. That's a great question. And for me, when I first started out, I started as in the wholesale side, so as a broker. And when I first started out, I didn't get my broker license. I worked with family and my cousin who owned the mortgage company at that time. And so I got my at that time it was a real estate sales, real estate license. And so, when 2010 came and that crash of 2008, 2009, I ended up taking a year off, and at that time went and got married. And after getting married, I kind of realized that, going back into the real estate industry, I've always had a passion in just real estate, and, I knew finance. So, I got an opportunity to go work on the retail side with a national banking institution. So when I went there, and I worked there for a couple of years and got recruited to a different banking institution. Went over there for about 4 years. Being there and under the retail atmosphere, I learned a lot, but I just knew it was outside of doing. I should say there was a better process. There was brokers that were beating us on the retail side. The control wasn't there. The following the retail guidelines, there's only one set of guidelines. You only got one set of rate sheets. And I just knew that there was a better way of going about it. And so I started looking. I had a few friends that went back into the becoming a mortgage broker, and I talked to them, and I'd see the pricing that they had, and they talked to me about the ability to close a loan within 2 to 3 weeks. And, for us on the retail side, that was just unheard of. And so as I looked more into it and I realized this is the way to go, I just knew that I had to go and break off from the retail side. And so I looked at going back and getting my broker license and putting it all together. And I literally took 2 months and I studied, 3-4 hours a day, because I did not want to, not pass. And so
Right.
After passing my first time, that was it. Once I got connected with a few wholesale lenders, I saw the process, and I just knew that I could really build something and really expand and provide a culture to not only loan officers, but ultimately giving the consumer the best experience. And so what was important for me was making sure we had control, making sure we had options and having optionality and having multiple lenders, and the speed to be able to close within 15 days or less on loans and was unheard of. And then just being able to have communication with your real estate partners and not having the oversight of a retail lender all over you and kind of watching your emails and what you're saying. So once that happened and we opened it up, it's been nothing but the best experience. And, I would encourage people that are looking to go and break off onto their own. It's definitely something that's not easy, but, stay consistent, stay focused, surround yourself with mentors that have done it before that will help you and guide you. And, following your passion, especially you want to work for yourself and be able to make decisions ultimately on your terms, you should definitely pursue it.
That's awesome. Miawand?
So, talking a little bit about education, like you mentioned, right, in response to what you brought up, Mac, I think, which are great points, right? Because being a broker for so long, you come across all kinds of individuals. Like you said, some people who went through the college gamut. I've had agents that I've worked with that have PhDs and brokers that I've worked with that have masters and PhDs and all kinds of subjects. And, you know, on the flip side of it, the other side of the spectrum, I've had people who have no background in finance, no, you know, super high level of education background, if that's what most people will define it as, and or no college experience, and still have gotten a real estate license and been successful than most others in the industry too, relatively speaking. So for me, just naturally having, I ended up getting, at the time when I went to Virginia Tech for college, that's where I got my undergrad. And so I got a degree in marketing and a degree in finance. Both of them had a concentration. So the concentration in marketing was management, and the concentration in finance was real estate. And so naturally, when I decided that I wanted to pursue real estate, I had the option of either going directly for an agent exam, salesperson exam, or a broker exam. I knew that I might not be ready for the responsibilities of a broker at the time at that age, but I wanted to have the license since I had the opportunity to walk right in at the time and take that kind of test, assuming I got through all the certifications, which I did. And, you know, it's a matter of studying and preparation. Everyone has different ways they approach taking tests, especially standardized tests that are made to trick you. And, you know, I think if you prepare yourself well and find a way that, you know, you like to study, whether it's visual. Nowadays, it's a lot easier than what it was. When I was taking the test, it was barely a lot of content online, some crash courses in person that you would go to for a weekend to prepare yourself for an exam. And then you could go through the steps. Now, with all the information that's out there and all the different sites that are out there, they do make the process very easy, depending on how you want to go about it. But naturally, I knew that with my entrepreneurial spirit, that I wanted to have the comfort of knowing that I'm a licensed broker, so that in the event that I ever did want to expand myself over and above just being an individual salesperson, that I had that opportunity. And naturally, that kind of was a good foundation I laid for myself, because it kind of pushed me also to make that decision sooner, maybe than I would have if I was just a salesperson.
Sure, absolutely. Well, it's interesting. I did a podcast not too long ago about education in, you know, this space that we're in, whether the college degree matters anymore, especially if you're coming into this sort of environment. And everybody has their own opinions on it. And I'm not going to get into mine, but I will say that I find that the people that do the most successful in this field, it's not really education based. It's really kind of people who have grit and drive and great follow through. And so I find that if you have those characteristics and understanding that, you know, depending on what sort of brokerage you go to and what sort of, if you get placed in a team, there's a lot of kind of variables there. But this could be a really independent sort of situation for you. And if you're motivated enough to move forward in those directions and you can stick it out and be, you know, not the scenario of dropping out in the first year to 3 years, I think this can be a really good direction to go. Now, I think there's something to be said about the overhead now of having a brokerages. I think especially on the mortgage side, if I'm not correct, right, you have to have maybe 250,000 in reserves, some high amount. Is that right, or am I misspeaking?
I think for a mortgage broker, no, you don't need to have the 250.
Okay.
As a mortgage lender, being a correspondent lender, yes, there's certainly.
Sorry, that is what I meant. Yeah.
250.
Yeah.
That is correct.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So there, you know, depending on how you want to go in that direction, there can definitely be some stuff. But I find that a lot of people are now really focusing on teams because there are so many brokerages around, and you can move a team around brokerage, and they're having relatively good success with that. And so there's always that sort of option, right? If that's kind of the direction you guys want to go. I do want to ask you guys, how is it that you two are partnered together? You know, how did that kind of come to play? At least that's my understanding, right? That you guys are partnered together and you guys do business together. I don't know if it's exclusively, but you guys are doing work together, correct?
I'll let you take it, Miawand.
Yeah, absolutely. We are working together. Alex and I actually met when I decided that I wanted to come out to Sacramento and establish Pure Homes out here. I was obviously looking for a lending partner. And even before that, I had been connected to Alex before, and we had worked a ton of transactions together, escrows together. And at the time, us and our agents and our team were working with a multitude of lenders, from your retail lenders, all the major players that are out there, along with some bankers and brokers, but I just found over the years, just me personally having a background in finance, I take a little bit more initiative with my clients, and I teach the agents that we work with also to be a little bit more involved in helping your client navigate through that process. And we might not all be experts on the finance industry side, but or mortgage experts, but with enough transactions and enough experience, you can at least help guide a client through that process. They might have a friend that's a mortgage broker, or a cousin, or they bank at so-and-so credit union that person's trying to give them a mortgage as well. And that's a unique and competitive landscape to navigate through. And if you're any consumer, whether you're an adept investor who's rate shopping consistently, whether you're a first-time home buyer who doesn't understand the basics at all, or you're looking for just some mortgage advice and mortgage support, it's a unique industry. A lot of people don't realize all the back end that's behind it. Retail banks can lend on retail guidelines and retail requirements, versus a mortgage banker and a broker have a lot more flexibility to give you a multitude of different products for different types of scenarios or financial profiles. So I found myself more and more over the years relying on mortgage brokers and bankers, and connected with Alex, and he delivered well above and beyond my expectations. And I have pretty high standards on who I refer my clients to, or who our team refers our clients to in general, just because we want to try to make sure that whatever expectations we set in that process, those are hopefully delivered upon and exceeded upon for our clients. And so having a couple or a few professionals is generally more than enough in the industry. If you've been working with them long enough, they're tenured, they really know what they're doing. When I'm on the real estate side, that's what I look for. I tell my agents to look for as well. And so when I came to the Sacramento area a couple of years ago, I started working with Alex a lot more, and I realized that his systematic approach and kind of all the things that he teaches within his office, his corporate culture, the technology they use, and more than anything else, just that level of hands-on personalized support where you're not treated like a number, no matter what the market's like. When he was swamped with business, when rates were 2% and 3%, I still felt like every customer I gave him, they gave me the response that we felt like we're his only customer. And so those kind of things led me to the opportunity to sit down a little bit more seriously with them and say, look, we ultimately, Pure Homes wants to have a relationship. It doesn't need to be an exclusive relationship, but we want to have a relationship with a lender that we can rely on, that delivers to our standards at least, and can do right by the clients. And so after a few discussions and after many transactions together, we decided that we wanted to embark on that journey. And so, we are excited to work together. We do work together hand in hand often in various forms, but, Better Rate is still an established brand in Roseville and Folsom and out of state. And they work with a ton of other realtors outside of our agency. But we do have an established relationship with them just because we know, based on all of the experiences that we've had and how they've delivered for all of our clients, it's been well beyond all of our expectations. And, we want to keep delivering that kind of same process to our clients. And the loan, as you know, Mac, is such an important part of that process. A lender can make or break a deal for a buyer, and so for us, we found that out of a lot of the different people that wanted to come and possibly work with Pure Homes, we had retail players, we had, some of the large scale online players, your Rockets, your Loan Depots. A lot of them had approached me personally saying, okay, what can we do to become a partner with Pure Homes? And so it took me a little while, but we were very selective on who we decided to embark on that journey.
Well, Alex, I don't know about you, but I think we could probably chop some of that up, throw it in a promo video, and put it on your guys' website. Because,
I know, right?
Because that was an outstanding way to tell people that you should work with Better Rate and that they are a trusted, reliable, and ethical business. That was pretty outstanding. So I don't even really know what more you need to say. Let's just wrap it up, guys. Work with these two guys. That's the end. That was great. Alex, did you have some input on that?
No, I appreciate my one man. He's amazing in all aspects. And, when we connected with each other, we had the same vision. And, our vision was to make sure we put the customer at the center of everything we do. And ultimately making sure that we give them an amazing experience. And that's obviously through service and through expert advice to make sure that we can, get the loan through, get the real estate deal closed. And what I would tell you, Mac, is that, Miawand and I, we've worked on a few deals where I think one of the most important things is the partnership between a loan advisor and a real estate agent. I think that's where I've seen a lack of just the past 20 years. I think it's so critical that the real estate agent and the loan officer, that they're working hand in hand. I mean, truly understanding the client. For me, when Miawand connects with a client and then does a warm transfer to us, and by the time I get back to Miawand, I'm making sure he understands everything about the client, the income and the assets and the ratios and what we need to do to make the deal work. And we literally have that 15-minute conversation on how to make sure that we can put our customer at the forefront of when they make an offer, right? And so I just think, it's so important that loan officers and loan advisors and real estate agents, that they communicate with each other to thoroughly understand what that client's needs are and how to make sure we can win the deal for them. And so kudos to Miawand. He does an amazing job of making sure that all his offers, when he makes those offers out, he copies me. I follow up, making sure that I call a listing agent, and he and I are just masterminding on just trying to do the best for the client to make sure that deal is accepted.
Yeah, we've talked about this a bit on the podcast about the partnerships and how critical they are between your loan officer and your realtor. As you guys know, I'm licensed as a realtor and as a loan officer. I primarily do loans, a little bit of real estate, really just family and friends, because as these guys both know, it's not practical to do both. It doesn't make sense. You're competing against one side or the other at some point. And so it doesn't make sense. But we talked about the importance of that because at our brokerage, we have in-house real estate and lending, right? They're owned by the same person. And so we talk about how critical it is and how much more successful your deals can be when you're able to work that closely. Now, when I talk to my clients, I tell them, hey, we may not be the best fit for you, right? I mean, this is the way the industry works. So talk to a couple people, see what makes sense. But I will say, whoever you're going to work with, make sure that team is locked in, right? Make sure whoever the loan side is and the real estate side, that they're working together, because it is so easy for deals to fall through when these people are not communicating. And you find this a lot more when, especially like if you're wanting to go through a bank and then you're dealing with the traditional realtor, and the person at the bank is off at 5, they're not available in the evening, or maybe they're not working on the weekend, or whatever it may be, right? Sometimes that happens, and now your realtor can't communicate and you run into these sort of issues. So I like what you guys are saying. I personally, if I was like, well, I want to buy a house, I would feel very comfortable with this situation, because I feel like you guys are doing the way that it needs to be done, in the way of executing for your client, right? And then your guys' overall ethos in the business of putting the client first is really what's the most critical, right? And maybe we can touch on this a little bit, because I believe both of you guys were in real estate around 2008, right? Okay. So
that is correct.
Yeah, there's a reason that the lending laws have changed so vastly. And there's a reason that there's more rules in place. And there's a reason that the same thing in real estate, right? And so when we consider sort of stuff like that, and I'm sure that you guys have seen it, these guys putting people into ninja loans, or, no income, no verification, no job needed, and we it's kind of the dirty past of our industry where people don't really want to talk about it. But the fact is this was happening in masses, right? Throughout the entire country. And so this is one of the reasons we wanted to do this podcast. We want to change the light of this industry. We want to show you guys there's people out here that are doing this because they genuinely care. They generally want to put people into homes that are affordable and not something that's going to, wreck your life for the next 30 years. And to me, it sounds like that's what you guys are doing. But, kind of going back to, around 2008 and maybe even before that, I'm sure you guys had your fair share of run-ins. But, how does that market and dealing with clientele, and kind of maybe if you guys got some war stories, I don't know, very, different than it is now.
Yeah,
Alex,
it's changed. Yeah, it's changed quite significantly. Back in 2004 when I started, and the stated incomes and the no doc incomes, and people just being able to create a business and not needing the lenders not even checking that the business was active. It was just a nightmare, and then obviously look what happened. And so no, what I appreciate now is with all the regulations, the new lending laws, they're in place for a reason, and the reason to make sure that we stay committed to first and foremost always doing the right thing for our borrower, right? And these regulations allowing us to have complete transparency and to make sure that they're first and foremost our clients. And so I'm a huge proponent of what the changes have occurred. I know there will continually be changes, and so I tell a lot of loan officers and real estate agents, you gotta be able to adapt and be a true professional, and for us where we're currently at, I think there's going to be additional laws that are coming out here soon, and so just make sure that for us always doing the right thing.
Yeah.
On my side, I can touch on it from a real estate perspective. If you just look at regulations in real estate in general, and unless you're in the industry, sometimes a lot of people might not be aware of them, but just the amount of forms and contractual documents that we have that we were using, let's say the early 2000s versus what we are now, from appraisal waiver protections to all kinds of different clauses that are now in the real estate purchase contract in the state of California, you can see that the mindset has shifted. I used to call real estate an archaic industry, especially in many developed micro markets. It is very archaic in its ways. It's quote unquote old school in so many different pockets, and it has its own unique nuances. And so from 2008 and onward, you saw that from a finance perspective, there was a lot of regulations put in place. But on the back end, on the real estate side, especially in the state of California, a lot of things were put in place to protect buyers and sellers in transactions, during transactions. And ultimately, it falls upon the onus of how that real estate salesperson or how that real estate broker or the culture of the brokerage that they're working for really focuses on the client, right? Is transparency part of the core and corporate culture? Is doing the right thing and setting realistic expectations for your clients really the corporate culture, or is it burning and turning however many people you can so you can get a commission check and be the top rock star in your office? Well, the industry changes and evolves so that it can protect the individual and the fiduciary. So on the real estate side, I've seen a lot of ebbs and flows. I've went from the traditional model of running a Realty World office and working in one to seeing the floodgates open at a place like Redfin at the time when I was there, generating 300 to 400 warm pre-approved leads a week, and going to closing. I was closing at 1.75 or 100 escrows a year, just myself, let alone my team was more than that. And seeing how that dynamic goes and saying, okay, well, technology is also changing now. People have access to so much more information than they did before. And I think it touches back to take it all back to where we started about the relationship with the real estate agent and a loan officer. I find myself, or so many of the agents that we work with or that work in our brokerage, come to me and say, well, Miawand, my client wants to shop like 10 lenders. They want me to help them get 10 rate quotes. They want to pick the best one. And sometimes it might be some small bank based out of the Midwest, right? Like you said, banker hours. And, just because they've got 0.1% or 0.25% better than the person that they were referred to that has delivered for their friends and family or their colleagues or their coworkers. And so ensuring that relationship is symbiotic and that, both of the people, their ethos is like what you said, doing the right thing by the customer. I think that, it's ultimately the onus falls on the customer about informing themselves. I would always tell my clients this: look, when it comes to real estate, if you were to call me and ask me to do a real estate deal in somewhere that I've never done it before, I'm going to be one of the first agents to say, hey, I've never transacted there. It's not my area of expertise. I probably can't give you the best value on it. versus a lot of other agents would try to take that deal. And then on top of that, when I do get a client, or we get a client, our office gets a client, I train my staff and our agents and the people that we work with and all of our partners that we ultimately know that we're in a day and age where there's a ton of data out there. So help your clients get that data. You can provide some of that data and give them the data to make an informed decision. Ultimately, it's their money. It's their decision. They're going to have to pick the lender. They're going to have to pick the house. They're going to have to pick the deal and be okay with it. But they're relying on you as a human and as a person that they're hiring for your services to guide them, protect them, and ensure that you deliver for them. And so I think if people could really simplify it to that mindset, it's not a difficult industry to be successful in and be busy in and make great money in. It's just that a lot of people focus their approaches on so many other different facets about the industry. So I like the fact that post 2008, not only technology, but regulations have exponentially changed and grown, I think, in the favor of the consumer.
Yeah, it's, I think you guys both of you touch on a very good kind of like overarching idea of kind of what happened in the development and where we really should be, right? Whether we're talking about, and I always find that this is an interesting conversation to have because when we get people who bought before these new regulations that came into place, and now they're like, this was way easier when I bought a house, 20 years ago or 30 years ago. They're like, why do I have to send documents in again? And I have to kind of, I'm not going to go into the unique facets of, RESPA and Trilla and TID and TRID and all of these sort of things. But we kind of talk about, a little bit like, well, this is some of the stuff that happened. This is what led into it. This is why it's a little more difficult, but it keeps you safer. It keeps, us safe. It keeps everybody ethical and on the up and up. And I think people will appreciate that. But I do know that there's a little bit of frustration if you did buy a property, a while ago. It was a little bit easier to do, right? So it's so interesting. And I like the idea of, talking about how, the industry is going to continue to grow, and we're going to continue to see new laws come in place that hopefully will better the market and make it better for the consumer and keep everybody, honest. And a good example of that, guys, is, you think, well, it's already hard enough to get a home loan. So people are like, do we really need more regulations in this, right? But when we look at laws like ACOA and we look at the Fair Housing Act and we look at things like that have bettered our industry, have made it so there's not as much discrimination. Well, we hope to say no discrimination, but these laws help with these sort of things, right? Making sure that we're not discriminating against race, sex, being handicapped, anything like that. We hope that this continues to grow. And I think as brokers, right, or at least I would hope, this makes it a lot easier to kind of weed out people that are maybe in the industry for not the right reasons. I don't know if you guys have had that at all, but it is, there's a lot of money chasing in this industry because it can be that way. And not to say that you can't do that and do the job effectively and be ethical when you do it. But, it can sometimes be a blurred line when you want to get to that level. And so I like kind of what your guys' approach is on this and things and, the direction that you guys think the industry is going to go. So I do have a question. It's I've never had two brokers on at the same time, and also in kind of in one on the mortgage side and one on the real estate side. How do you guys feel about either a loan officer or a realtor presenting information out to the public and maybe in kind of an advertising way where it's not maybe like it really should be said by the loan side or it should be said by the real estate side, right? We've talked about this a little bit on the podcast, the distinction of these are the responsibilities of a realtor, these are responsibility of the loan side. And I see this a lot right now with the CalHEFA new program that's coming out, right? We have a lot of realtors that are out there talking like they're experts on the lending side and they're not. And then on the other side, sometimes we'll see lenders talking about, stuff on the real estate side, not to say that they're not educated on both sides. They should be, but I wonder where the line needs to be drawn there. Do you guys have an opinion on this?
I'm a big fan. Yeah, got to stump me there. I'm a big fan of making sure that you're staying up to date on industry trends. And, you know, in the real estate and the mortgage industry, we're constantly evolving, and, you know, to stay up to date on market conditions, on regulations and technology, I think it's definitely imperative. But I also believe in being a true professional, and making sure that you're willing to put the time and effort and understanding guidelines and really everything in your role and what your role is, making sure that you truly continue to learn about it and get better every single day. It's hard to say, yeah, if real estate agents come and start talking about a CalHFA program that they're not quite informed about, you know, because I have seen real estate agents that really know what they're talking about. And so it's hard to say. I don't have an opinion on it right now.
Yeah, I mean, I
Yeah,
know it's a bit of like it can be really difficult because it can be scenario based, right? Like, what are they talking about?
Right.
Things like that. But I
Exactly.
do find, in kind of the same way that you said it, because I do have my foot in both spaces, you know, and especially because CalHFA, you know, the program that's coming out right now is so prominent in California. Everybody on TikTok that's in our space is talking about it. And as a professional on the lending side, you know, I've spent probably the better part of 15 hours researching it, and there's just not enough information out there. Now, it's relatively comprehensive for like a basic conversation, right? Like we can tell you this is what it's going to look like,
Right.
these are what the lines look like, but it hasn't fully come out yet, right? And so I'm always really hesitant to put that sort of information out there, right? I'll say, hey, this is, you know, a program that's coming out. We're going to have more information. And I'm planning on getting a blog out on it soon, and then hopefully podcasting when I have a little more information. But it's such an interesting thing. It's such a polarizing topic right now because, you know, if you can get 20% covered between your down payment and your closing costs, like, okay, well, why wouldn't I do that? But I don't know where the line is drawn for a realtor to really be giving information out like that if they don't fully understand the ramifications of where that's going to come out. And I get it's like a really popular thing. And granted, this is not the singular thing that I'm going to stand on, but it is interesting. And so I would like to get your opinion as well.
yeah, no,
Yeah, you did say that.
go ahead, Alex.
Oh, no, go ahead, Myron.
I was just saying, you know, in response to what you said, I try to tell realtors, and I tell, you know, the agents that we work with, including myself, that, you know, if you hear about a program that's going to add value to your clientele, to one of your clients, it could help them, it could support them, or it could help your business. You know, like we talked about earlier, so much information out there, and once this information came out about the CalHFA program, you know, you have all these different little blurbs of bullet points that talk about the high level guidelines or requirements or details of the program. And like you said, there just isn't a ton of information. And I think that a realtor is doing a disservice to throw that out there to their network without knowing that they have the support. Either they have all the education that they need to deliver and answer the questions about that program, because a client's going to buy into that. If a client says, oh, okay, well, this is going to work for me, now I'm going to really get serious about buying a home and kind of change around my life. Well, you have to be able to deliver all of the necessary answers to any questions that come up. So having a loan officer that actually works with you, that knows that system, would help. But I'm usually err on the side of, you know, ensure that, you know, you put out what you can actually deliver on and provide value on. So if you're going to put anything out in your business, or you're going to talk about anything in your industry that could be helpful to your clients or clientele, you should be able to deliver value and education, and data over and above just like a marketing piece of information, right?
Sure. Yeah, I think for me, and again, this comes back as well to being completely transparent within our industry because I hate to get like a bad rap in general and be associated with that. If you Google like realtor, like probably the first 10 things that come up are not great. And so
Right.
yeah, it's not great. And so for me, it's always very frustrating. And we saw this a lot during the refi boom, right? And when rates were massively shifting, and where people would be like, oh, well, I can, you know, they said, I can get you this rate, whatever it was, right? And they wouldn't say anything else. They wouldn't say what the program was. They wouldn't say, like, you would need to put, like, nothing. And I'd be like, well, is that really a great way? And I'm like, I know that that's like gray area for violating some of these laws we have in place, but when we were saying things like, I just feel like as a realtor, you don't fully know what you're talking about because you don't have the information that you have that the lender has, right? And to me, that always just really frustrated me. And not like I'm more educated than you, I know what I'm talking about, but I just feel like you need to give the respect to the lending side. And then on the other side, for the lenders, I've seen many a times where they try to step on the shoes of the realtor and they try to navigate the contracts and they say, well, I think you should do it this way, you should do it that way. And I'm like, that's not your area, man. Like let them be who they need to, like you. And to me, that's the problem, right? Is not having those teams that make sense. Like you guys, I would imagine that's not a problem, right? You guys are like, yeah, I know you're
Yep.
gonna do a great job. I know you're gonna do a great job, and we're comfortable where we're at. But that doesn't happen all the time, and that's where I get a little frustrated, and that's where I get a little sad, I guess, with where things are at. And I'm like, just find somebody you trust. I mean, what's the problem here on both sides,
And
Yeah,
that's
well
where I
said.
think it comes to being a key factor of making sure your real estate agent and your loan officer are on the same page, making sure they have that 10, 15-minute conversation. Most of the time that doesn't happen. And so, a lot of the times I get a call from my buyers and my borrowers and they're asking me a lot of information. And, I depending on who the agent is, I always like to say, hey, let's connect the agent on here and let's do a three-way call. What's the right thing to do, and let's get to the right answer by all of us being on the call. But yeah, that's why it's so imperative that communication between the real estate agent and the loan officer connecting with each other so they can make sure whose role is what and to be able to help each other to ultimately obviously get that house for the buyer.
Yep, absolutely. All right. Yeah, no, that all sounds great, guys. So I want to know a little more about what's going on in Bakersfield, right? Because that's where Sheree is. And I was really confused. I had Freddie on the podcast. This guy got me hyped up. I called my broker. I'm like, you need to be more like this guy. This guy's like, he's out there boxing in the morning. No offense, Paul. No, but we were, he was a cool guy, and it really sounded like things were going to move forward over there at Realty One. And then essentially, I talked to Sheree and she's like, hey, this is happening. And I was like, oh, well, I want to get these guys on the podcast. And so I'm not really sure what happened exactly, if they were bought out or you guys moved down there or whatever. But, if you guys can give us a little bit of insight. And as far as I know, Freddie still owns a couple of the brokerages that he had. I don't think he sold them all off, but as much as you guys can tell us about, what's going on, if that's part of the expanding that's happening with Pierre Homes, you guys are kind of moving in that market. And I like Bakersfield. Not that the demographic is the same as Sacramento, but I do kind of feel that Bakersfield is very similar in the way that it's like relatively close to LA and that there's kind of like similar stuff around it. I personally think the best place to live in Sacramento, in California, is Sacramento. If you're not like super keen on one environment, now I love Santa Barbara the most because I'm a beach person. But if I can't live in Santa Barbara because I can't afford a $5 million home right now, then I like Sacramento, right? But what's going on with Bakersfield? If I don't know if we can even dive into that or not, but I would love to hear what's going on.
Well, hopefully before retirement, you can become Oprah's neighbor.
Yeah, I know. That's my goal. Me and Oprah just hanging out, just going to the pavilion over there and, watching some movies.
Well, there you go. I'm not sure too much about Freddie and his background and what's going on with Realty One. I'm not too privy of that, to be honest with you. But Cherie and Alex and I have been discussing, an expansion out into that market, and it's in the works. It's coming soon, very soon. It's actually already in the process right now. And we're just like I'm bullish on Sacramento. I'm very bullish on Bakersfield. And, you mentioned it briefly about their similar markets in terms of their dynamics. I come from, at least 13 years of experience in the Bay Area, right? Predominantly. You can imagine the past post about 2010, a majority of our office and myself and my agents, we weren't writing any contingencies on any offer. And I'm talking about 40, 50 offers a year, all of them non-contingent. And how are we able to do that? With good relationships with lenders, ensuring we protected our clients. We did right by them from start to finish so that we felt comfortable making those kind of offers. When I came to Sacramento and before I even came out here and started practicing heavily, I did a couple deals in like, Loomis and Granite Bay and Folsom. And I'm sitting there talking to the agents about writing an offer with no contingencies, and they're laughing at me.
Yeah.
Like, that's not how we do business out here. And so, I think I took a lot of the successes from there and I said, okay, well, I know Sacramento, as it continues to develop, as it continues to gentrify, and grows into a major macro market with all these little subdivided micro markets, which it has, and it's continually growing and evolving. Sacramento is going to see a lot of what happened in the Bay Area from a real estate perspective, from just the dynamics of how the market works, what agents are doing, how agents are catching on to trends quicker, and things like that. I'm already seeing it with the shift in the market, if you will, right? And so I feel the same for a pocket like Bakersfield. And we had an opportunity actually to expand out in the Orange County area or Bakersfield, and we chose Bakersfield. Cherie was one of those reasons, one of the big reasons. But the market itself is a market that I think is very, very, untapped in a lot of ways. It's still very archaic in how business is being done out there.
Yeah. You have anything on that, Alex, or that's the man right there? He's the one.
I don't. Yeah, my one. Yeah, he knows more.
Yeah, I figured. No, and that's what I was saying, right? I mean, I don't do a ton of research looking outside of the greater Sacramento market for the most part. I'll go out a little bit into the Bay, and I'm from the Central Valley, so I'm pretty keen on that area. But I like Bakersfield from what I've heard. I have a couple buddies from college that are from Bakersfield. They had some good wrestling out there for a while, so I'm always a fan of that. But I like Bakersfield, and the same reason I've liked Sacramento for the last 10, 15 years is that it feels like there's a lot of growth opportunity there, right? And I see that same sort of thing. To me, Patterson in the Central Valley is that same thing because Patterson still has available land. They're trying to build that runway from there. I think it's supposed to go to San Jose to cut into the Bay. And so I like the Central Valley a lot from an investing standpoint. If you can find a way to live out there and you're happy with being in the Central Valley, it's a lot of agriculture land. There's a lot of dairy land out there. I moved out of the Central Valley more distinctly because my background was in PR and there wasn't a lot for me there at the time. But I think the opportunity for growth for real estate and, for you guys who are brokers or people that are looking like, how do I make this a career? We're kind of looking at, well, where are these markets going to expand? Where are they going to grow? And you see this a lot in Manteca and Lathrop, because they have the super interchange there, right? There's only a couple of them through the state that'll get you. It's an interchange that will get you through most of the state, essentially.
Throughout the whole state.
Exactly. And they're getting, they have new development out there. They have a lot of, we do a lot of work out there with truckers because it's really easy to get on the freeways and get off the freeways and things like that. But there's a lot of really large industry that's going out there as well. And so the way that the Bay Area has expanded into Sacramento, and now Sacramento's becoming a little more expensive to live, I think is people are expanding more into the Central Valley because the commute is relatively close, depending on where you're at, to get to the Bay Area. Are you guys keeping an eye on any specific markets of growth, for maybe the next 10 to 15 years that, and I don't want you to give, your guys' 10 to 15 year strategies out or anything, but anything that you think is interesting, because that's what I think about Bakersfield, right? I think that's kind of from the south. That's one of the areas that's developing the same way up here in the north. What do you think, Alex?
Am I, as far as a specific area? No, I haven't really maintained a focus on a specific area. I live in Lincoln, California, and so I could see that there's a definite build out that's going on in this area. And again, being more localized in Sacramento, I also think that Folsom area off of 50 is tremendously just building out. But as far as other areas, I haven't really looked into it.
Yeah, I like the Sacramento area because there's still like opportunity for development. We've talked about this a bunch of times on the podcast about the development that's going from essentially Anatolia up to Folsom, right? All of that new development up there. But then you're starting to see that development that's essentially on the 50 after Arden Mall and how that's building back as well, right? And my understanding, I'm out near Sunrise a little bit. And so my understanding with the direction of the city is supposed to be like Sunrise Mall, Arden Mall, downtown is supposed to become more of a loft sort of structure. And they want to build more loft styles, condos, townhomes, so they can better feed into the business because the current, I mean, I don't know when you guys, the last time you went to the mall is, but I haven't been in the mall in a long time, right? Probably 10 years. If I can't get it off Amazon, I'm pretty frustrated. I'm like, Amazon, what's going on? Get this, right? So it's, they're trying to redevelop the way that looks in Sacramento. So I think there's a lot of really interesting pockets. I like the Carmichael area in general for that sort of development, going into Citrus Heights. And you're starting to see that especially around Del Paso. Now, if you're not familiar with Del Paso area, it can be a pretty rough area. Let's put it that way. Some of the areas, but then you go on the MLS and you look and you're like, wow, there's some really nice remodels out here, right? And so I think you're right. Like the gentrification of Sacramento in general is really coming up as we get more, better paying jobs, as we get more people coming in from the Bay Area and surrounding areas. And it's easy for that to happen when, they're blasting across the entire country. The Sacramento is the number one real estate market. It's in the top 5 best places you can live in the United States. People are going to come this way. So, I mean, I like Sacramento a lot. What do you think, Miawand?
I love Sacramento,
Yeah.
man. It is. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
No, you're good.
Tell us about how you love Sacramento.
Well, I was born and raised in Nebraska in the Midwest, so I lived there for 18 years of my life, and then moving out here because of family being out here, and just being part of the community for over 20 years. I just love everything about it, and how obviously we know how close we are to Napa and the Bay Area and Lake Tahoe, and I just think it's you compare this to the Bay Area and the heavy traffic you got to deal with. We go to San Francisco sometimes, and San Francisco's just changed. You go downtown, you're like, this place 20 years ago was amazing, and now you go there and you're like, what is going on? And so, no, I love the greater Sacramento area. I think it's going to continue to boom. I think Miawand kind of touched on that earlier, as Bay Area has already been aware of it, and they're kind of moving out here. It's going to continue to grow, and the people out here, and hopefully we can get some more jobs and tech companies to come out here. That would be huge for us. But yeah, everything about Sacramento I've enjoyed, and I don't see myself moving anywhere else.
Yeah, no, I share those sentiments, Alex. I'm bullish on Sacramento. If you were to ask me, to answer your question, which you said, Mac, about like emerging markets or 10-year strategy, I would me personally, I'm parking most of my real estate assets in Sacramento. If my strategy is the next 10 years, at least, I'm very bullish on the future of Sacramento. There's so many hidden gems all across the greater Sacramento area. I mean, if I would run it all the way across the causeway from Davis all the way down to El Dorado Hills and everything in between, off the 50, off the 5, off the 80, there are really some beautiful hidden gems in the greater Sacramento area. And it's just unique. I mean, like I said, I've lived and practiced and sold real estate all over the Bay Area. I was bullish, like you were talking about the Central Valley. I was bullish about 10 years ago on a place called Mountain House. And now Mountain House, I was telling people, Mountain House is going to be like another Dublin, watch, and it's going to grow. And, people saw a lot of great success. Lathrop and Manteca, like you said, in the Valley, there are some pockets there that are trying to do that. But Sacramento, in my opinion, is the future, and a big part of the future of the state of California. From everything I hear from a lot of my VC clients in the Bay Area about how much biotech and funding and money is coming to the greater Sacramento area for jobs, how much commercial real estate is being picked up by people firms and large corporations all around the world, let alone the US, are investing in big time commercial real estate, not only in downtown. A lot of that loft stuff is going on in downtown, like you mentioned, on the commercial sector, but just again in the greater Sacramento area, what they're doing, how big they're going to make the airport here. Yeah, so I mean, I don't have enough. I couldn't stop you. I couldn't stop saying enough great things, and I love the food here. I'm a big foodie. I like to eat, and so the food's fantastic. The culture of the city and the people. You can get a blend of anything you want in this city, and I really do enjoy it, and that's why I decided to create our flagship location here in Folsom and really grow organically within the Sacramento market.
I mean, fingers crossed that they get more international flights out of freaking Sacramento, man. If I didn't have to drive to San Francisco to fly to the UK, that would be probably one of the best gifts I could give myself for the rest of my life. I mean, seriously, it would be so nice. But I mean, Sacramento's such a great place. Now, I'm hoping that we haven't lost faith that we're going to get an MLS team and that's going to come. And that was for me. I was like, oh, this is awesome, right? I grew up playing soccer. Going to the Republic games are a lot of fun. I'm not particularly, I don't like Papa Murphy's pizza at all. So I'm not particularly happy about that in general, just as a pizza fan. But, when COVID happened and as far as I understand it, investors pulled out and things like that, I was kind of like, oh, that's a bummer. But we're seeing a lot of growth just culturally through Sacramento, and food is a good example of that, right? Like, it's crazy the diversity of food here. If you're a beer fan, I mean, there's just a crazy amount of like breweries that are out here. I lived in Midtown for a long time, and the Midtown market is expanded. It's a crazy fun place to be if you want to be around that. I'm a little older now, so I'm kind of like, I've had my fun in Midtown, but I will say that if we're going to do something, and we're not being pretentious in driving out to Folsom or Roseville to go to a nice restaurant or whatever, we're in Midtown, visiting and having fun out there. And so I definitely like what we're seeing out here. I'm definitely like the growth. And I mean, all indicators are essentially showing that Sacramento has a lot more growth to have from it. So that's exciting to see, and I think...
Keep your hopes up on the MLS team. I was at an event about a month ago with Kevin Nagel as one of the keynote speakers.
Okay.
And he was letting us know that even though the press is pitching it one way, they're doing everything that they can to ensure that stadium gets done here.
There you guys, you heard it first here, all right? They're trying to get it done. I mean, it would be awesome, right? Because my wife is from England, and when I went out there, the last time we went out there, I had an opportunity to go watch like a local team, right? And the stadium of their local teams are like our professional football stadiums here. They're insane. I was like, this is the nicest stadium I've ever been in. And you're telling me this is like your local team? So it would be awesome to have that sort of, things come out here. And I think they're still calling it the railway back there. I can't remember, but that whole area out there has so much opportunity for development. I mean, a while back, like a long time ago when I had the business, we were looking to build out there. And I think there were maybe some issues with the land there in general because it had been used for industrial use at some point. But I think there's a lot of opportunity. And so that's really cool. The funny thing about, kind of looking at the emerging markets in California, and this is one thing, and I don't want to get too deep on this because we are getting close to the podcast being over, but one of the things I've been looking at pretty heavy is water rights. The way that water flows through California. There's some amazing documentaries out on this sort of stuff, and it can be really freaking scary. Even like I watched one where there was a town in the Central Valley, closer to Fresno, that like they didn't have water. Like you just had to buy bottled water. It was the scariest thing ever. I was like, Jesus Christ, I have a pool. I'm taking advantage of this. I feel really bad. But, and then I kind of sat back and I thought, well, if things do come to kind of a halt in California because of water and whatever, and luckily we've had a lot of rain this year and I'm hoping they've been saving it, but we have water here in Sacramento and we're the capital. So we're probably going to be okay. So if you're ever worried about water and if you're going to have it, I would say, hey, Sacramento's a pretty good place because we have the water, and it's very unlikely that the capital of California is going to be the place that's going to lose it first, right? So that's really
Well said.
yeah. So before we get off, I do want to give you guys an opportunity to, if there was something that you really wanted people to know about real estate, maybe something more distinctly about, your guys' business and things like that. I'd love to give you guys the opportunity to kind of talk about that. Like I said, I'm really appreciative to have anybody on the podcast, but especially two brokers that have such vast knowledge base. And obviously we could do a 10-hour podcast, but it would be quite long. And that's probably would only hit about 10% of your guys' knowledge base. But I'm appreciative to have you guys on today. And, I'd love if there's any lasting wisdom that you have for consumers, for realtors, that you guys think that they really should know, especially with where the market's going, coming into spring, going into summer for this year. This would be a great opportunity to kind of jump in. And as always, we're going to let Alex go first on this.
Yeah, for me, I think a mindset's key, specifically talking to more of loan officers or real estate agents. I think you got to have the right mindset. We're definitely in an industry that's cyclical. For me being in the industry for 20 years, I've seen a lot. So for specifically real estate agents and loan officers, make sure you're just getting better every day. You're sharpening your skills. You have the knowledge that, can ultimately give you the confidence, and confidence gives you certainty. And, your clients want to work with people that are confident. And so ultimately just having that right mindset and being mentally flexible and being adapt to change. And, we're in a buyer's market right now. And, we've been seeing lately, Miawand and I have been talking about this, that there's been multiple offers on properties lately, offers that our buyers are going out and making these offers. There's just been multiple offers and just being, so we're seeing that things are definitely changing. And, the consensus is that inflation, when it starts to come down, rates are going to follow. So we do see the rates following, coming down through the next couple of months. We could see those trickling down, and ultimately building a strong brand behind yourself. And, brand is so critical, and it definitely takes time and effort, but just establish yourself as a professional and focus on delivering excellent service and provide those amazing experiences for your clients.
Yeah, well said. Well said.
Oh, thanks, Alex. That one's a hard one to follow up. In terms of real estate, it's something that I've been passionate about. I'm still passionate about it. Every day I learn something new in the industry. Just because I'm titled as a broker or I have an office or I help mentor people doesn't mean that I'm not learning something every day, whether it's from someone or through an experience. And it starts with being grateful. I'm grateful for you, Mac, for the time that you're giving us and the opportunity to chat with you about the industry that I'm so passionate about. My daughter the other day was saying, it's coming up on her birthday. She's like, Dad, even when it's not my birthday, I love opening presents. Just the process of opening presents is so fun. Even if it's something big or small, doesn't matter. And, my mentality, one of my core mentalities personally is when you get to open up your eyes in the morning, that's the best present you could ever unwrap. Right. And that's the best W you could get right there. And so what are you going to do with that day from morning to night, for yourself and for the sphere of people around you? And, we're quick in any business, right? Whether you go to eat at a restaurant, whether you go somewhere and you're treated with good service or you're treated with bad service, we're usually, as human, it's human nature to critique and think about how did that experience go? Oh, I'm not going to eat at that restaurant again. Well, real estate, this is your business. It's your brand, and you're putting your services out there to everyone else. So what kind of expectation and benchmark are you setting for yourself in your own business with your own brand? I think that's really important for people to understand. And for me in real estate, every time I talk to agents, lately, especially like, Miawand, you're expanding right now. Why'd you wait till to expand in the market right now? And I just felt that as the market has shifted, now there's some amazing talent out there. There's people who are hungry and are committed to building their brand and building themselves as a business. And you see real estate agents usually unhappy at places because, they lack support. They're not able to have enough time to get, to all their clients, and they're probably not making enough money that they're setting for themselves. They're not reaching their targets. And so, when it comes to real estate, what we try to establish here at Pure Homes is real simple. Four pure keys to success, if you will. We want to empower our agents with technology, support, strategy, and ultimately culture. Like, I'm big on passing on that positive human spirit to one another through our experiences. And so, we're excited to be here in Sacramento, local, close to you. Definitely going to take you up on the dinner. We'll talk some more wrestling off air one day. I'd love to chat with you about that. But, super excited about Sacramento and its future. Really excited to be expanding Pure Homes out here and looking to grow organically.
Well, I think well said from both of you guys. Again, want to thank you guys for being on today. I know we could probably go over 1,000 more things, but I think this was a lot of value today. Before we get off, I want to give you guys the opportunity for you to tell people how do they get a hold of you guys, right? I'm sure at this level, you probably will, but you probably have other people that they can talk to and on your team and things like that. But, maybe a website or Instagram or, however you want to direct people. And what do you got for us, Alex?
Yeah, thanks, Mac. You can look us up on our website at mybetterrate.com. You can reach out to me. My email is alex@mybetterrate.com. You can look us up on LinkedIn, Better Rate Mortgage, as well as Instagram, Better Rate Mortgage as well.
Perfect. Miawand?
With us, our website is gopurehomes.com. You can find a ton of information out there. You could email me directly. I could spell out my email address. Might not be that easy, but the easier one that'll still get to me is info @gopurehomes.com. You can find us on LinkedIn and Instagram as well. And would love to hear from anyone in the industry.
Perfect. And as always, guys.
Hey, Mac, also, I want to say I loved your, I forgot to tell you this, but I loved your logo, by the way. I looked at your logo. I love it. It's just perfect. So
I like the branding too. We were chatting about that before this call.
I appreciate that, guys. I appreciate that.
Thank you for everything, man. Appreciate you letting us come on board and giving us an hour of your time.
Yeah, absolutely. So, guys, as always, we're going to have their information available, in the description. So if you didn't quite get all of that or you missed it, definitely check it out. If you're looking to buy or sell real estate, you need some help with the home loan or commercial loan, I would imagine as well. Any sort of loan or real estate needs, this is a great group right here that I think you guys can reach out to. I feel, as far as the conversations we have, I feel pretty good about what you guys are putting out in the market. And sure, we're competing against each other a little bit, but that's okay, guys. That's the way the market is. And that doesn't mean we have to hate each other. And that doesn't mean that we can't have dinner and talk about wrestling, right? So thank you guys.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. So thank you guys for being on. As always, this is the Hard Money Show where we talk about real estate, home loans, and media. Thank you guys and have a great night.